Hello and welcome back. This is Stevie Bucks Coins and welcome to the channel. Excuse me. Today we have the latest of the wildlife of Great Britain. It is, I think it's set number, either number 12 or number 13 of 6 lots of 10p's. This set has a subtitle which is Heritage Breeds. We have the Border Collie, we have a Hardwick sheep, a Frisian cow, a Shire horse, a British Alpine goat, which is that one there, and finally one I particularly like is the Gloucester Old Spot. Been a great fan of sausage and bacon, of course, but that is just my personal preference. So this is the card that they all come in. I will show you one of the obverses, which shows Charles III. The country that supplies these, I have to check to make sure, is Guernsey. This is, I think, as I say, either set 12 or set 13 of 6 coins with a loose affiliation with each other. This is called Heritage Breeds, and this first one is a dog very much to do with the countryside. I can't say, I'm not sure whether you call it a heritage breed or not, but it's very nice. They're a very fantastic work dog. We've seen them at sheepdog trials and such like, and that's the Border Collie, sometimes known as the Welsh Border Collie. They are prolific work dogs. They work every single day in horrendous conditions sometimes, when you think about the amount of rain and cold weather and miserable weather that, in particular, some of the more mountainous places where the sheepdogs work. And you know, I have a great love for animals in general, and these dogs tend to be quite laid back, in a sense that if you see them in the countryside and they come over to you, you let them come to you, they smell your hand, and they're very affectionate dogs. I was at a farm when I was younger, and I had Welsh Border Collies rounding up the sheep on a hilly farm in Devon, and they were wonderful, and they were wonderful parents as well. I remember the collie, the female of the collies, had given birth about 4 weeks earlier than when we arrived, and we had great fun playing with the puppies and the dogs in general, playing fetch with them and all sorts of things. It was one of the more favourite things I can remember when I was on holiday with my family, which is a good 50 years ago now. The second one is a Frisian cow. Again, we've got the portrait of Charles III there. Frisian cow. Now, I don't know, and I think I might be getting slightly confused, but the Holstein cow is also the same coloration, white and black. Now, I don't know whether they both went off as separate breeds, or whether they're the same breed in fact, and we call them Frisian cows and the continent call them Holsteins. I'm not too sure on that point, and if anybody does know the difference, if they can let me know in the comments, I'll be grateful. But the Frisian cows are our main workhorse in the dairy industry. 90% of the dairy herds that you see in the UK are mainly of the Frisian cow ilk. I think the second one is Jerseys, and the third one's the Guernseys, which have a very, compared to the Frisians, have a very more cream-laden milk yield than the Frisian do. Frisian, great deal of as a dairy cow because of the amount of milk that they can produce, and are used as the main workhorse of the British dairy industry. Don't know too much about cows. Cows are not something I know an awful lot about. They're not an animal I've had any great deal of interest in, apart from I enjoy their milk and the beef, which are from a slightly different type of cow to the Holsteins, to the Friesians, sorry. So that's Friesian cow. We're halfway through with this one. And this is the British Alpine goat. Now, it's a slight contradiction in terms, calling it British and Alpine. The Alpine region is in the borders of France, Switzerland, Germany, those type of areas. So how we've got a British Alpine, I don't know. I'm wondering whether it is one that's been brought over from that region and has been bred with other goats over a period of time and has eventually become its own breed as the British Alpine. I don't really know. I don't know any goats, but all I know from the goat industry is that they do have a lot of uses, particularly the Angora goats and Angora animals will be used for their winter coats, as well as the rabbits, I think, as well, if I remember rightly. I may be wrong on that point. They've used a lot of their products are used for people who are lactose intolerant, and they use goat milk instead of cow's milk. The cheeses that are made from the goat's milk, you tend to see them, they're either a soft cheese or they're a very hard cheese, but you don't get that much, there isn't as much differences as there are in goat's cheese, in cow's milk cheese, where you get a lot of the cheddars, you get all sorts of cow's milk cheeses, but there are very few goat's milk cheeses and even fewer sheep milk cheeses. But they wouldn't be kept by farmers if there wasn't a need for them, and people didn't want the products that are got from the goats themselves. Unfortunately, the farming world is a cutthroat world, and we were talking earlier about the Friesian cows, and the males that are born into the dairy industry have one of three ways of going. They're either bred for veal, they're sold on and bred for veal, or within a very few days of being born they are euthanized. And it's just a very sad fact that there's just no call for a lot of the dairy bullocks. I do also know that goat's meat is very much revered by the West Indian community, and they do like curried goat, or goat, I believe they prefer it called curried goat rather than goat curry. And and one of the traditional dishes, as I understand it, I may well be wrong, but as I understand it, they would have a curried goat with rice and peas. Now, whether that is true or not, or whether I've been led down a blind alley or not, I'm not too sure. But they are, and the leather from the skins, particularly of the kids, which are the baby goats, are very much sought after. I know when I was in the Air Force, the kids' goats' leather, after the kids were slaughtered for meat, would be used by the Royal Air Force after they'd been made into gloves. And the air crew, when they used to fly military aircraft, would have kid leather gloves, because the touch and the feel through those gloves made it feel as if you weren't wearing gloves at all. And they were used particularly by aircrew on fast jets, and whether they be fighters or bombers. So that's just a little side thing from that industry. Right, the next one, I need to find it. Next one is this one, and this is a Purdock sheep. Now this is a breed that is a rarer, I'm not saying it's rare, but it's certainly rarer, and is used particularly on farms up in the mountain slash lake districts and that sort of area a lot. Now I don't know if their meat are different, but I think they're a more hardy sheep, which is why they're used on places like the lake districts and other mountainous areas. I don't know an awful lot about them. I do know that there are 3 types of sheep meat. You have the sheep who are over 2 years old, which are called mutton. You have the sheep that are between 6 and 12 months old, and they're called lamb. The in-between state, which is between 12 and 24 months, are called hoggets a lot of the time. Hoggets, particularly up in the northern areas, up here up in the north. I believe it's also used in other areas as well, but it's to differentiate the difference between the more gamey meat of the mutton and the very sweet meat of the lamb. But my knowledge about this particular breed of sheep is next to none. I believe one of the reasons they are used as far north as they are is they have a very thick coat of wool, and the lanolin, which is what comes naturally, is to ensure that the coat is kept well. The lanolin itself is something that's used not just in the sheep farming industry, but is used elsewhere. Right, the next one is the Shire horse, and that is this one here. Shire horse becoming less and less popular now on farms. Please excuse me. They were used in the early days of farming they were used in teams of a minimum of 2 to pull ploughs through the ground, and they were used a lot in a farm to do a lot of the heavy brutal work that is now done by tractors. So the need for them to be on the farmland now is less and less. However, if you go to any heritage farms or any farms that show old-fashioned ways of working the farmland, these will be horses very much in view. They have also been known to pull drays of beer, and you know, it's lovely to see them out on the streets. You do see them occasionally, as I say, dragging big units, wagons of beer around in some of the London areas as a traditional thing from a traditional brewery. They have also been used in people like Harrods who do deliveries, still occasionally daily use 1 or 2 delivery wagons pulled by horses, and I think they are mainly Shire horses there. Beautiful, beautiful animals, but very, very big. If you're next to them or you've been next to them, they're massive. They're frightening by their size, but their nature is very gentle as a general rule. and I love seeing them out, and I love seeing them decked out in all their silver, all their horse brasses and things like that. It's a wonderful thing to see when you're either out at a special event, or if you're just seeing them out on the road, say, for instance. Wonderful things to watch, wonderful animals to watch. And as long as you ask permission, most people will allow you to pet the horses, and they do have a habit of liking carrots and apples, from what I remember. Talking of carrots and apples and things that eat, this thing eats anything and everything that's put in front of it usually. Pigs. The waste disposal part of a farm. I mean that in the kindest sense. You'll find that you can be able to feed pigs virtually anything that's reasonably edible. They take a lot of waste greenery from the farm, the vegetables, as the vegetables are tidied up, ready for sale. They will eat mash, which could be a swill of some description. In the war, for instance, anything that wasn't used by the family or was extra and was not quite edible for humans, they used to have pig clubs, and they used to feed these animals the waste from the dinner tables from the various different people who owned the pigs, and they would go around with slop buckets and they would collect the food to feed the pigs every day. And waste, there was virtually no waste at all during the war, with these things being used. And it may be that a club would have 2 or 3, a couple of pigs maybe, rear them, and then towards the end of the year, 8-9 months later, they would slaughter them, and they would all have decent cuts of meat and decent meat to be able to eat and give to their families. And Gloucester Old Spot would have been one of those breeds. Probably one of the better known heritage UK breeds. There are other ones like the large white, which is one that was brought in after the war, which used to be only 16 weeks from sort of birth to being slaughtered, and being of the right weight to slaughter. You've got middlebacks, you've got the ginger ones, the Tamworths, greatest what are they, Oxford Sunday and Blacks. There's all sorts of heritage breeds that are, at this moment, they're not strong in the numbers. I'm not saying they're borderline going to be out of, we're going to lose them, but there's 1 or 2 that are teetering on the edge of becoming critically endangered. So I would love to see all these natural British breeds coming back, and to a certain extent they are, but as I say, there's 1 or 2 that are teetering on the edge of becoming endangered, and let's hope that doesn't happen. So that's my review of this coin set. Whoops. We have the Gloucester Old Spot, we have the Shire Horse, we have the Alpine Goat, we have the Border Collie, we have the sheep, the Hardwick sheep, and we have the Frisian cow. 6 very nice coins, and ones that we could easily Whoops. I wish my thing would stay steady. Stay. So as I said, 6 very interesting. Oh, blimey. Will you behave? Stay. 6 very different animals. 6 breeds that are traditional within the British working environment of farms and such like. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, could you please give me the thumbs up? And also, if you've not yet done so, could you please think about subscribing to the channel. I'm doing a video every single day during December, so hopefully you'll find something that you want to watch. For those of you having a hunt, I hope you have a successful one and you find the coins you're looking for. If you are buying coins, then I hope you can get the coins you want for the price you want to pay. And until we meet up again on this channel, which I hope will be before Christmas, until then, from me, bye bye. Ta-da now.